What's up everybody, this is the 2023 Kia Sportage X-Pro Prestige. So about the 2023 Sportage, well, it's all new here for this model year and gets some very bold styling as you can see. So whether or not you like it, I'll leave that up to you to leave in the comments. But as far as the looks, I think it actually looks really good, especially here in this jungle green color with the two-tone black roof. It is a real cool look, and especially here with the X-Pro, it's a little more rugged with the styling here. And the Prestige also gets some nicer LED projector headlights up front there, but they're all going to look pretty much the same. I think these really have a nice presence on the road and just really stand out nicely here, again, especially if you get it in a fun color like this. Other things here though, coming down to the sides, you have a 3.4 inch longer wheelbase here for the 2023 Sportages, and so that's going to give you more interior space, more cargo space, just make this a little roomier and larger overall. And you'll also see that here on the X-Pro version here, you have these BF Goodrich all-terrain tires here, which are very beefy. They have the pretty big tread blocks here, a little more aggressive than some of the other off-road style vehicles you see in this segment, and it's on 17-inch wheels here, and I'll talk more about how that affects the ride and the handling later in this video. But as far as the looks go, I think it's a really cool look here, and that's also paired up with, again, just this two-tone styling. And I also love how you have these little other accents. I really like how on the C-pillar there you have this little pattern, just nice little touches just to kind of, again, elevate this, just with those little things to make it just a little nicer, and some little surprise and delight things, honestly. And then going out to the back there, I think it's also really attractive. You have, some taillights there that have a little bar in the middle. Unfortunately, they don't go all the way across, but they still look really, really cool, and just a really nice looking back end as well. And so overall, I think all 2023 Sportages look really nice, but here with the X-Pro versions, I think it adds a nice little bit of extra aggression as well. And let's start it up and go for a drive. The 2023 Sportage has the new Kia key here, just with the new logo, and this key fob is familiar if you've seen any of the Kias in the past few years. Most of them still use this key, and it's a really nice key though. I really like the little bit of a trigger switch here on the top with the lock button and all the other buttons there on the side. Just a really cool key. But of course it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start here. So just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. And if you're curious to hear about the interior in the 2023 Sportage, my wife and I just did a full interior deep dive on this vehicle, so I will link that at the end of this video. You can go check that out if you want to hear all our thoughts on this interior. But overall, it's a really nice interior. It's really cool with these screens and just some of the new features that I've never seen before in a car, honestly. Some really creative stuff here, and so yeah, definitely check out that video for all the details though on this interior. And before we hit the road, I also want to give a huge thank you to the sponsor of this video, Carmigo. Carmigo is a car marketplace that allows you to sell your car quickly and easily, getting you multiple offers in just one business day from Carmigo's nationwide network of dealerships. All you have to do is take a few pictures, set a minimum price, and watch those offers come in. It takes less than 15 minutes to list your car, and it's always free to list. You only have to sell if an offer meets or beats your minimum price. Plus, they handle all the annoying paperwork, loan payoffs, and other details that make selling your car a headache. When I first heard about Carmigo, I immediately thought it was a great idea. You get exactly the price you want for your car without any of the hassle or the haggling. So avoid the long process of going to multiple dealerships to get your car appraised, or the annoying back and forth of Facebook Marketplace messages, and get your car sold in a day with Carmigo. If your car sells, you normally just pay a flat $350 sell fee, but for Maran Motoring viewers, if you use the link in the description, you only pay $300 instead. So if you're ready to sell your car, click the link now and get started. Alright, so setting off here in the 2023 Sportage. So the first thing that I'm noticing about this vehicle, well, the basic stuff is all pretty good. So you have a pretty responsive brake pedal, you have a nice and responsive throttle pedal. It's a little jumpy. You gotta be, I guess, a little acquainted with this vehicle before, you can be totally smooth with it, because every once in a while it does feel like it wants to kind of jolt into action there. So you just have to, fine tune your throttle inputs a little bit. But it does make it very eager, and so it never feels sluggish off the line. Now whenever you actually start requesting some power from this engine, things get to be a little bit of a different story, and I'll elaborate more in a second. But otherwise all the other stuff's really good. Steering is light and doesn't have a ton of feel, but in this segment, I'd say it's par for the course. Feels really nice, and it's not overly heavy either, so it's going to be nice and comfortable for the average commuter. But one thing that does stand out to me here is you have really good visibility for the most part. So You have an excellent view forward, nice thin A-pillars, mirrors off on the doors, view out of the back is great. All of that is spectacular. But at least here on this top X-Pro Prestige trim, you have a heated windshield. And while it doesn't block your visibility, it just kind of is a little odd, because if you look at the windshield, you'll see these little squiggly lines, and so it looks like the windshield is like a little bit dirty or never clean. It just, for me, it's not a totally clear view. Now, I guess it'll come down to your eyesight and how, much that kind of stuff might, bother you or stand out to you. But for me, it's a real conflict, because, I've been driving this vehicle here in the middle of the winter, and I've had to clear snow off the windshield multiple times, and turning on that heated windshield, I mean, I can get this windshield clear in a couple of minutes tops. I mean, sometimes it's like a minute, and then this thing is like warmed up and it's able to knock off that snow and ice. So I love how well it works. It's just a real debate, because, I guess it's gonna come down to how often you actually have to clear snow off of your windshield. If you do it a lot, then maybe it's worth looking through this, slightly odd view through the windshield with these heating elements. But there's one interesting little thing that I didn't see anyone else really notice much in other Sportage reviews, so I wanted to point that out, that you're definitely going to want to drive one of these, or at least sit in it and look through the windshield to see if that would, kind of get on your nerves or not. I'm not sure I'm in love with, seeing that every time I drive. But we're going to go ahead and put it up into the sport mode here, and going to just leave it in the drive mode, and we'll turn down onto the back road here and see how it does. Here we go. All right, so very responsive with the 8-speed automatic and the throttle response. I mean, it gets the message very immediately and does give you, all the power that it's got to give. So that's the thing, though, is it's not a lot of power to give. It's a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. It does 187 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. And, that's basically on par. It's average, for the segment as far as power goes. These weigh about 3,700 pounds. So, I'd say it's average acceleration. I think the 0 to 60 times I've seen are somewhere between the high 8s to the low 9s. So I'd say about a 9 seconds 0 to 60 on average. And, I'd say it's one of the slower ones in this segment, though. So it's certainly not going to, feel as punchy as some of the others, especially some of the turbocharged competitors. And even like a RAV4's got, about 15 more horsepower or so to use. And so, no one buys these things to be hot rods, but if you do want more power, you test drive one of these and find a little bit lacking, I would just highly recommend going for the hybrid. This uses the same hybrid system that you get in the Tucson hybrid, and I did spend a week with one of those last year, and it's a very nice hybrid system. Gives you a lot more power, and you also get better efficiency, much better fuel economy. As long as you're okay spending the few $1,000s extra for the hybrid thing, I would certainly recommend going for that hybrid, because it just seems like it's a better experience basically all the ways. But if you want to just stick to the regular gas engine here and save yourself a little bit of money, just know that it's not going to be a ton of power. But I've already been driving this vehicle for a week now, and I'd say that for average commuting stuff, as long as you're not in a hurry and you're not trying to drive with any kind of aggression, this motor's fine. Just have a little bit of extra time, whenever you're merging onto the highway and stuff like that. But otherwise, the power is fine. And in this segment, this is about what I said everyone else gets. It's going to be fine and sufficient. And I think it does a good job with the eagerness as well. But coming up to some corners here, let's see how the Sportage handles. So we do have the 3.4-inch longer wheelbase, which certainly helps us out here. But then you also have, the little bit of extra ground clearance here in the all-wheel drive versions. All all-wheel drive versions, by the way, get 8.3 inches of ground clearance. No extra ground clearance really for the X-Pro here, but you do have these knobbier tires here. And so that is the one thing, is that they do make a little bit of noise, but not too much. But it is a little bit more squirmy. I'm sure if you were on regular all-season tires on any other Sportage, the handling would certainly be better. This is probably one of the worst handling ones. So it really is going to come down to, do you actually need that off-road capability? It's not much more with these tires, but if, having all-terrain tires would really help you out in your, life, then go for this. Otherwise, I think the other Sportages, are probably going to be a little bit better off, and you'll probably get better fuel economy with the other tires as well. I mean, it handles itself fine, though, and honestly, I was impressed that with these all-terrain tires during my week of driving here, I was impressed that it just was as quiet and smooth as it was. You don't have a ton of vibrations through the steering wheel or through the, seat of your pants or anything. It's it honestly could pass for, you know, normal all-season tires as far as the feel goes. Again, just a little bit of extra sound, especially up at higher speeds. But again, it's not the roaring sound you hear from like all-terrain tires on a Wrangler or something like that. So, you know, I think it's actually a nice happy medium, honestly. It does dive in nicely, you know, it's just, again, the extra squirm from the tires. But I can tell that this platform, you know, is more stable with that longer wheelbase. It's more dynamic. And the ride quality is also, you know, very good. Like I said, the tires are nice and smooth, but it also soaks up potholes very well. And it's just a nice thing to cruise around in. The only thing it does make a little bit of racket is this engine sometimes, because it's got to, you know, shift around a good bit to, you know, have sufficient power most of the time. And in sport mode here, we'll also hang on to the higher RPM. So we'll go ahead and put it back into the normal mode here, let the transmission calm down a little bit. By the way, it is an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it's worked pretty well in my week, but it does have the odd behavior every once in a while where I'll catch it out of a gear where it's waiting for a downshift, or it's, you know, just being a little weird and I'm expecting a shift and it's not giving me one, either an upshift or a downshift. So it's not a perfectly tuned 8-speed automatic in my opinion, but it's not bad. Other things here, so, you know, if you're getting one of these X-Pro ones, you're interested in the off-road, you know, capability. And like I said, in addition to the tires, you don't really get much else. Now, all-wheel drive Sportages and Kias in general get this lock button here, so you can lock the all-wheel drive system into a 50-50 split, or you can leave that unlocked and it'll just automatically, you know, dole out the power however it sees fit, and, you know, put the power to the wheels that have the most traction. But it's nice you have that, you know, adjustability. There's also a hill descent control, which is like, you know, downhill cruise control essentially at low speeds. So, you know, it's limited. This really isn't about true off-road capability. If you are serious about, you know, off-roading in a compact crossover like this, you're probably better off with a Forester Wilderness. They have like an extra inch of ground clearance, and you know, just seem to be a little bit more actually focused on the off-road thing than this is. But, you know, again, the extra little bit of ruggedness is, you know, still nice if that's something you're into. And merging onto the highway here now. I mean, it pulls well, and honestly, it actually has a little bit of a cool sound to it whenever it gets up to those higher RPMs. And you can actually, there's an active sound design that allows you to help the whole thing to sound a little bit better with the speakers, giving you some augmentation. You can turn that off if you don't like it, but it does have that as well, so I wanted to mention that. But, you know, I mean, it still is totally fine merging on the highway as long as you have plenty of leeway here and a nice long runway. But now we're out on the highway here, and I'm going to put on the highway drive assist feature that this has. It has the adaptive cruise control and the highway drive assist here, which does do the steering assist for you. So we'll go ahead and turn all this stuff on here, and it also can adjust your speed based on the speed limit around you and intelligently slow you down or speed you up for all that as well. We're on this gentle, you know, curve here on the highway, and I'm just kind of hovering my hands over the wheel. You do have to have your hands on the wheel at all times with this system, and it will check for some feedback from you every once in a while, but it's doing a pretty good job here so far. So I've tested the highway drive assist system in several Hyundais and Kias over the past few years. It's not one of my favorite systems. To me, it hasn't been reliable, and it hasn't been super good with its steering assistance. And so in this one here so far, it's doing a pretty good job. We'll come up to another corner here and see how it handles that. But especially if you live in an area that has mostly straight highways, this is going to be great, and it'll do a really good job of helping to keep you centered in your lane and kind of reduce the fatigue of driving just a little bit there with making those micro corrections for you. But out on the highway too, I got to say that it's, you know, again, still fairly quiet for what it is. Nice and refined, nice and smooth, and just would be a really nice highway cruiser, I think. But, you know, going around this corner here now, and it's doing a pretty good job. It's still getting a little closer to the lines than I'd like, but it's being assertive with its steering here, and but it is, okay, yeah, it's pogoing a little bit. This is a little bit of a challenging pavement. You can see the lines aren't super clear here on the left side. You got this extra strip of tar running down the middle, so probably a hard situation. We're also driving towards the sunlight, so challenging circumstances, but it's still doing okay. But not my favorite as far as the steering assist still for this system. But yeah, a really nice highway cruiser though nonetheless. And of course you don't have to use this stuff, it's just an extra convenience thing here. You get all these upper trims. But the last two things here to mention about the Sportage are the fuel economy and the pricing and how it compares to its competition. So first off, fuel economy. These are rated at 23 mpg in the city, 28 on the highway, and 25 combined. And in my driving here, which was pretty brutal because I'm driving in the middle of winter, I was leaving the car running to clear snow off of it and heat up this windshield and all that kind of stuff. So it's the worst case scenario, but I'm getting 19.1 mpg, and that also includes sitting in this interior to film it while it was idling. So that knocked it down probably 1 on its own. So I can safely say it's at least 20. That's still a couple mpg lower, but again, it's tough in the winter time to really say. The hybrid version does get much better fuel economy, so if you want better fuel economy, definitely spend a little bit of extra money there for that hybrid. And if you want even better fuel economy than the hybrid version, there's also a plug-in hybrid version, which gives you about 34 miles of all-electric range, plus the hybrid component as well in that one. And that's certainly going to be something worth checking out if you do want the maximum efficiency. But lastly, the pricing and how it compares to its competition. So these start around $27,500. This one, as tested, is about $38,555. At $38,500, it's certainly mid-pack, I'd say, as far as pricing goes. It's not the huge value that Kia's used to be, but it still is a really great value because you get more stuff than you usually get in most of the other competitors. Honestly, the closest competitors is the Hyundai Tucson, since it's on the same platform. It has the same options of gas and hybrid, and same engine and everything else. And I will say though that this interior, to me, it's more high-tech. You have the bigger screen with the 12.3-inch touchscreen versus a 10-inch screen in the Tucson. There's less of the glossy black plastic in here than the Tucson. I prefer the interior of this over the Tucson. Again, that's personal taste, but I think you just get a little more tech in this for pretty much the same money as the Tucson. But beyond the Hyundai, the real big competitor, I'd say, would be the Toyota RAV4 TRD off-road trim, is the one that competes specifically with the X-Pro here. And that also goes a little bit further because it has some sportier dampers as well to go along with the tires. But that's pretty much the closest competitor here to this X-Pro Prestige. And similarly equipped, that RAV4 is going to run you 40 grand. So this is, a little bit cheaper. Climbing a hill here, this engine's struggling. And I will say, I did spend several days with the RAV4 TRD off-road, and I think it does have a little bit more punch than this. And so, from a driving standpoint, I certainly appreciate the little bit of extra power that you got from that. That also does get a little bit better fuel economy as well. But again, you pay a little bit of a premium there for the Toyota, but it's not much more. So definitely one worth considering there if you're willing to spend an extra $1,500. And of course, this is one of the most crowded segments, so I could spend another 20 minutes talking about every single competitor. I'm not going to name them all or compare it to all of them because it just would take forever. But the real two other strong ones I want to mention are, again, the Forester Wilderness, which does do without some features, so you can't get cooled seats in that. The screens are way smaller, feels much more old school in the Forester Wilderness. But if you're okay with that, then you can get one of those with better off-road capability for about $37,000 and undercut this by about $1,500. It's just a much cheaper feel inside. This feels so much nicer. So again, it's going to really come down to how much you value that stuff. But one that's really, I think, a great competitor is the Mazda CX-50. It might be the strongest competitor because the CX-50 is brand new. It's larger now. It's a little bit bigger than the CX-5. It's not much bigger inside, but it's a little bit more rugged with its setup, and they tuned it to have a little bit more of a rugged vibe. And it doesn't have like a touchscreen. That's one unfortunate thing. You still got to use a controller knob in that vehicle, but that's just another one that's worth considering because with the CX-50 you have a great combo of a 4-cylinder engine with a 6-speed auto that always does work pretty well. And I've only tested the turbo version, but the non-turbo one, aside from having less power, is going to be very much the same experience. They handle great, they drive really nice, and it feels honestly like a luxury car. So if you want something that has a little bit of a rugged vibe, but you want something that's even more luxurious than this, I would say that the Mazda, would be a strong consideration in my book. But lots of good options in this segment, but I think, the Kia is very competitively priced right, in the middle of the pack there, and gives you a lot of stuff for your money. And having, just all the stuff you have here in this, it really is impressive. And then to have, the great looks, the solid powertrain and all that as well. Plus the fact that the Kia, as well as the Hyundai, give you a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. That is also the cherry on top here. So you have a little bit of extra coverage beyond with other other competing companies will give you. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the Sportage X Pro. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Kia for providing me here with this vehicle to review for you guys today. Please also leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to keep these videos coming. And be sure to check out that interior review here at the end, as well as my other reviews, if you're curious to hear my thoughts on the competitors in detail. But yeah, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.